Hi guys, today we're going to do something really fun and easy. And so I know it's been a hard year for everyone, and I wanted to just do something that, you know, will have something really beautiful at the end of it, but it's just pretty quick and pretty simple to put together. So we're going to paint our palettes, and now this doesn't have to be necessarily a traditional paint your palette, like you don't have to make it exactly look like your palette or anything like that. You can see here on my desk there are some colors here that are inspiring me. So my little portable pencil tin, I've taken those out because I'm using it as a temporary holding for some watercolors, so they're just sitting on my desk all the time. But I thought I had done this painting of this little palette the other day, just when I was sitting here. I actually put this together in a video just to basically have some colours I wanted to use there to show you. But I realised this is actually quite a good supplementary palette for me that I can just pull out. It's got a few of the favourite colours that I need and like to use. And so I just painted, I sort of set it up how I wanted it, and I will like do a little swatch video, and I just put that in the front. So, but as you can see in the back of the book, and this is usually where I start my sketchbooks and where I kind of swatch colours to see how the paper feels and everything. This is the kind of supplementary palette I started with at the beginning of the year. I still use it, but you can see here it's got a lot more colours and it's got a lot more sparkle. And if the palettes are an indication of how the year's going, you can see I started out the year with quite a lot of oomph, and then it's gradually sort of getting a little bit more practical and a bit less kind of dreamy, but really just trying to hold it together, trying to get through the year. And you can see there the difference with the palettes. But one of the other things is I don't want to use those paints up before I've used them to paint the pictures that I want to use them for, if that makes sense. And also, some of you have let me know that you are following along with the tutorials, and I really appreciate that. I can't tell you how happy that makes me. And so I thought that just in doing something like this, it would be a way to sort of go back to basics, familiarize ourselves with some colors, and also like color schemes, see if they work together and things like that. So it's just a really nice, fun way to do something. So I wasn't exactly sure where to do this or how to do this. I knew I wanted to do the video, but you know, I had already done the little palette, and so I thought today I would open the art journal, and we would do like a different sort of a variation on a traditional palette. So as you can see, I've already sort of swatched out the palette, but I'm going to use that same little palette, and we're just going to trace it basically. And I'm just going to create a new little, just kind of an imaginary palette. So I have, I'm pretty much just picking at this point my favorite supplies at the minute. So some of the things I am using quite a lot and gravitating towards, and I'll go through all these, you know, as I swatch them in the palette on the page. But one thing that I thought would be nice for this video is kind of a different version of it. So obviously you can use this same technique and just paint your watercolor palette. You can paint a couple of different iterations of the palette just to see maybe if you're kind of trying to decide on a palette, you know, which ones you want to keep, which colors you like in there and things like that. But for this, we're actually kind of going to do a mixed media palette. So you know, you might have a favorite gelato and a favorite Neocolor 2 and a favorite marker and a favorite charcoal, and all those things can go, you know, a favorite pastel, all those things can go in this palette. So I'm going to use a couple of my favorite inks at the minute. I also thought it would be fun to include some washi tape, so I didn't do it in this one, but I thought it would be fun even to do a palette with washi tape or just add some into the palette. So you can see here that I have just traced the palette. I have added in a couple of the extra lines to sort of divide the palette up. And I'm very loosely sketching in the half pans, so I don't want this to be a polished look. And if you did, you can just easily measure everything and use a ruler and be a little bit more particular, but I just want this to be kind of a fun sketch. So I'm just doing everything lightly, but you can see here when I'm doing you know, the lines that should be like on the same plane, you can see how I do that, and I'm kind of just going along. So I'm not sketching the whole box out, I'm sketching the tops of the box, the bottoms of the box, the sides of the box along the page, and trying to keep my hand on the same angle there. And I think anytime you're trying to sketch something symmetrical, that's a really good trick. Like quite often I will sketch the left and right sides at the same time, you know, straight after each other, rather than doing one side and then the other. And I actually learned that off Cake Opera Co. So I took a class of hers on Craftsy probably 4 or 5 years ago, and she was creating these really ornate cake sort of plaster relief mold effects, and she would always work on the same the two sides at the same time. One, so she didn't forget what she was doing, and two, just to try and get as much symmetry as possible. So I think that really applies to sketching as well. And so what I'm doing now is I just always like to have a piece of scrap paper handy to just kind of loosely try, you know, the color scheme or whatever I'm sort of sketching out quickly first. So you can see here I'm just doing a quick sort of preliminary sketch to see what colors I want to use and if it will work in the palette. So this is only taking me like 2 or 3 minutes. And actually what I decide to do here is use some of the pencil first and then use some watercolor over it, and also some inks over it as well. So just in doing these little sort of quick studies or color sketches or value studies before you do your final piece, it's always nice just to do it, because you can come up with new ideas, you know, for the actual piece that you're working on or the page you're working on. Okay, so now is the fun part. We get to just play with the colours and create something beautiful. So I am starting with my favourite ink at the minute is Rose Gilt Tint by Robert Oster. Obviously, apart from the Winsor & Newton Gold ink, which I love, and we'll use that to outline the palette. Then I put on the Prismacolor Hot Pink with the Azalea watercolor on top. Then I used the Ecoline Pink Beige, which I am super loving at the minute. It's a beautiful color. Then I used my favorite Phantom Fire. So if you can't get this, Daniel Smith Iridescent Copper is a really good alternative. And then I am using one of my favorite Prismacolors. It's the Green Grey Light. I really love it. Then I'm using the Spectrum Noir marker. It's called Rose Quartz, and it's like a peach with a bit of glitter in it. Then the Sennelier Silver ink, which I've been loving at the minute as well. And then I'm using the Derwent Procolor Soft Violet number 24. So I don't really love the quality of these pencils, but I really love the color. And I just put some of my favorite Sugilite on top. So it was a really pretty color combination. And then I'm using the Prismacolor. It's the yellow Chartreuse or green Chartreuse. It's the one in my video anyway of my pencil palette. And on top of that, I'm putting this FW shimmering green ink that I really love. So next again is a Derwent Procolor. Again, I can't find the exact color in any other sort of better quality pencil. And then I'm using Fuchsite over the top. I love Fuchsite. And then after that, I'm using another one of these Spectrum Noir, and this is called Moonstone. So it's sort of a blue color with a bit of shimmer in it. And then to end everything, I'm using the Artgraf. It's the one that comes in the round circle tin, but I've just cut out a little piece to put in the half pan. So basically this is just a palette of some of my favourite colours and sort of mixed media supplies at the minute, as opposed to specifically a watercolour palette. And what I'm just showing you here is I'm going to use the gold ink that I love and the dip pen, but you can use, you know, a gel pen, a silver pen, or, you know, any other type of anything mixed media, a fine liner, anything that you like, and to outline it. But I was getting a bit ahead of myself there. Before we outline it, we want to finish painting all of the pieces, and then the outline will go on at the end. So at this point I'm just having a bit of fun putting down some of the different colours, mixing them on the mixing palette side of the palette, and after that we will sort of create some shadows. So before you do this part here, again I kept jumping ahead of myself, but you can paint shadows around the tin and then let that dry and then do this mixing over the top of it. And that's probably what I should have done, but you can see I was just too excited, too into it, and then I forgot to do that. So I'm coming back now and creating some shadows on the side here. So I'm taking advantage of the Smokey mixing colours that are still left on my palette from that video, and just using those colours to create the shadows. And you can see there that I am pulling in some different colours into those shadows. So I would like to do a video about shadows. It's one of my favourite things to paint. It brings so much to the painting, and the colours that you can use is anything, you know, it's anything in your palette. You can mix them. That will create really different and beautiful shadows. So maybe next week we will do a video on shadows and some of my favourite go-to colours, and then some other kind of tips I have for how and why I create certain colours for certain different paintings. Okay, so you can see there I stopped the shadows at this point, and I'm putting in the sort of outline and the line work, because I don't really need to paint any more near where this gold's going to be. The gold is water soluble, so if you use watercolour after you've used this gold ink, it will run. So I use this last, but I do still want to add some shadows in the middle of the mixing palette part at the top, but I don't need to worry about, you know, there's going to be no outlines there. It's just, you'll see in a minute, it's just shading. And again, you can see I'm trying to sort of hold the pen at an angle where I can pull my hand along without making, you know, shaky marks. So I'm trying to get the line fairly smooth. It doesn't have to be accurate because it is a sketch. And then when I come back in and sort of outline a little bit these half pans, I really do try hard not to make that even. I want that to look a lot more sketch-like and just little bits and pieces of the gold poking through. So you can see here I felt like it needed a little bit more, so I am adding some splatters. I would say I'm an occasional splatterer, so I don't do it often. Like I don't do it all the time, but I do like to do it if I feel like just there's some extra layering needed, and I just think it's a nice touch. And so now I am getting the Ecoline brush pen, and I'm using that to create some of these shadows, or the start of some of the shadows. So I do go back in with watercolor. I'm not sure even if I filmed that, but these pens are water soluble. I actually have some of the ink, so this actually is an ink color as well. I have some on the way, so I'll tell you, you know, whether I like the brush pen or the ink better. And so this is the part where sort of 70 to 80% of the work is done, and then you're just kind of going in and checking everything, adding some more layers where you think, or more colors or more shadows, and you can keep waiting for it to dry and keep building it up, or you can just you know, finish it, just however much work you want to put in at this point. So that is basically it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And again, if you have been following along, I really love to hear about your adventures with these, you know, paintings. And if you have any to share, you can hashtag Her Billowing Heart Paints on Instagram. I also have a little video coming out about how to make a separate account for art. So I know some of you have a private Instagram account, but it needs to be public to be able to share. So I will just pop on a little video of how to create another account and how to go back and forth between them. It's fairly easy. It's a little bit fiddly. I actually got my sister to help me at first, so I will just do a little video about that. And in the video, I actually created another account called Her Billowing Heart Paints. So if some of you do want to share your work and you don't have an Instagram, you can email that to me or something like that, and maybe once a month or something that I can put some of those on. So I'm not sure, don't hold me to that yet, because I'm behind with everything, but I am trying to catch up. So hopefully at some point I'll work out what to do with that account. But yeah, I would love to, the whole point of this is just saying I'd love to see your finished products. And you can see here I'm just showing you how the page, so that was the back and the front of that cotton paper that we used, and how well that handles everything. So that's all for today, guys, and I will see you soon. Bye.